Pronouns. In this chapter, we study about the various pronouns. Personal pronoun. Here are some rules for using personal pronouns. First, a pronoun should clearly refer the noun it stands for. When it is not obvious to which antecedent a pronoun refers, the sentence should be corrected. This can be done either by repeating the noun or by rewriting the sentence to make the meaning clear. For example, my friend was there with her aunt. She was wearing a red sari. Would be incorrect. My friend was there with her aunt. My friend was wearing a red sari would be correct. Second, a noun or pronoun which forms a part of a prepositional phrase is said to be the object of the preposition. Personal pronouns in the objective case are used as objects of prepositions. For example, please give the copy to him. They went with her. The underlined pronouns are the objects of prepositions to and with. Third, the possessive adjectives must agree with their antecedents. For example, the boy obeys his father. The girl likes her mother. The bird sat on its nest. Fourth, possessive adjectives with gerunds. When a gerund is preceded by a personal pronoun, the pronoun must be in the form of a possessive adjective. For example, the girl said that her writing had improved. The boy entertained the guests with his singing. In the above examples, the gerunds are underlined and the possessive adjectives are in bold letters. Fifth, the possessive form of a personal pronoun, which is called as a possessive pronoun, can be used in the place of a noun. For example, he did not bring his briefcase, but I brought mine. Because I forgot my pen, she lent me hers. In the above sentences, the possessive pronouns are underlined. Sixth, pronoun follows let. When a pronoun follows let, we use the objective form of the pronoun. We should not use subjective form after let. For example, let you and I decide the matter once for all would be incorrect. Let you and me decide the matter once and for all would be the correct sentence. Seventh, different person pronouns with the same verb. If pronouns of different persons are used with the same verb in a sentence, they should be placed in the following sequence. A. If all the pronouns are in singular form, then the good manners demand that second person pronoun should come first and then the third person. The first person should take the last position. For example, you, he and I are parents. He and I are good friends. B. If pronouns are in plural forms, then the sequence should be 1, 2, 3. It means the first person plural pronoun is followed by the second and the third person plural pronouns. For example, we and you cannot live together. We, you and they can purchase that complex. C. Sometimes the sentences have some apologetic sense or negative sense or sense of some errors committed. In such sentences, the good manners demand to accept the guilt first by the speaker means by the first person. In such cases or sequences, it should be 1, 2, 3. For example, I and you are responsible for the loss. You and he spoiled the party. 8th. If a pronoun refers to more than one noun or pronoun of different persons, it must be of the first person plural. In case nouns or pronouns are first and second person, and if nouns or pronouns referred by the pronoun are second and third person, it must be second person plural. In case of nouns or pronouns of first and third person, the pronoun must be the first person plural. For example, you and I have done our job. You and he have completed your job. 9th. If a collective noun is used as a unit denoting a unitary action as a whole, the pronoun used is singular and in neutral gender. For example, The crew revolted and murdered its captain. After 3 days, the jury gave its verdict. If the collective noun denotes separation or division, the pronoun used is plural. For example, the jury were divided in their opinions. 10th. When two or more nouns are joined by and, the pronoun used would be plural. For example, the collector and magistrate is negligent in his duty, because here the sentence means that the collector and magistrate is the same person. 11th. When two singular nouns are joined by and preceded by each or every, the pronoun used would be singular. For example, every teacher and every boy was in his room. 12th. Singular pronoun and singular verb is used with each, either, and neither. For example, each of the students is ready to do his duty. Neither of them gets his turn. 13th. Singular pronoun is used when two or more singular nouns are joined by or either or neither nor. For example, either Ramesh or Ganesh lost his purse. But if one noun is plural, then the pronoun should be plural and the plural noun should be placed near the verb. For example, either the principal or the teachers failed in their duty. Reflexive pronouns. First, when pronouns are combined, the reflexive pronoun will take either the first person or, when there is no first person, the second person. For example, Ram and I have deceived ourselves about purchasing a house. You and Ram have ruined yourselves. Second, transitive verbs take object with them. Such commonly used verbs are avail, absent, enjoy, resign, apply, revenge, exert, etc. For example, I absented myself from the office. I revenged myself upon her. Third, verbs when used intransitively don't need an object. Such commonly used verbs are keep, break, set, bath, make, stop, steal, qualify, move, open, draw, rest, roll, burst, hide, feed, gather, etc. These verbs are commonly used intransitively. For example, he kept away from the function. He kept himself away from the function would be incorrect. Fourth, the indefinite pronoun one has its own reflexive form. For example, one must have faith in oneself. Emphatic pronouns. The emphatic pronouns such as myself, yourself, herself, ourselves, themselves consist of a personal pronoun followed by self or selves. The emphatic pronoun is used to emphasize a noun. It is possible but rather unusual for an emphatic pronoun to precede the noun it refers to. Myself, I don't believe a word she says would be incorrect. Usually, an emphatic pronoun is placed after the noun it refers. For example, I myself solved this question. She herself found the solution. Reciprocal pronouns. Each other and one another are only two reciprocal pronouns. These are always used objectively. As per traditional theory, each other is used for two and one another for more than two. For example, for you and I are foreigners to one another. Reciprocal pronouns can also take possessive forms. For example, they both borrowed each other's ideas. The students in this lab often use one another's equipment. Relative pronouns. Who. Who is used as the subject of a verb, whom is used as the object of a verb or the object of a preposition, and whose is used as an adjective denoting possession. The relative pronouns who, whom, and whose generally refer only to persons and are used either in defining or non-defining relative clauses. Who refers to the subject of the sentence, whom refers to the object of a verb or a preposition, while whose refers the possession and it is used as adjective. In the following examples, who introduces the defining relative clause, who secures the highest marks, and the non-defining relative clause, who is learning Russian. For example, the child who secures the highest marks will receive a trophy. My brother, who is learning Russian, wants to travel to Kazakhstan. In these examples, who has the antecedents child and brother and acts as the subject of the verbs secure and is learning. Whom. In the following examples, whom introduces the defining relative clause whom we visited and the non-defining relative clause whom we will meet tomorrow. As in the example, the girl whom we visited is her sister. Mr. Francis, whom we will meet tomorrow, will be our guide. In these examples, whom has the antecedents sister and Mr. Francis and acts as the object of the verbs visited and will meet. In the following examples, to whom introduces the defining relative clause to whom you gave your umbrella and the non-defining relative clause to whom we send a birthday card every year. As in the example, the girl to whom you gave your umbrella lives near my house. His aunt, to whom we send a birthday card every year, is 98 years old now. Whose. In the following examples, whose introduces the defining relative clause whose house was sold and the non-defining relative clause whose family lives in America. As in the example, the man whose house was sold will leave this town. My brother, whose family lives in America, will visit us for a few days. In these examples, whose has the antecedents man and brother and modifies the nouns house and family. In the case of whose, it should be noted that it is the antecedent which must be a person. The noun being modified may be a person or a thing. That. As a relative pronoun that can refer to either persons or things, the relative pronoun that is generally used only in defining relative clauses. For example, the girls that were here yesterday will return in a week. The bag that was on the steps belongs to our tenant. In these examples, that has the antecedents girls and bag and introduces the defining relative clauses that were here yesterday and that was on the steps. Here, that acts as the subject of the verb were and was. Here are a set of rules. Rule 1. That can be used for living and non-living nouns for singular as well as plural. For example, I have lost the book that you gave me. He that is content is happy. Rule 2. No preposition is used before that. If any preposition is required to be used, it is used in ending position. For example, we know the hotel that she lives in. This is the lady that I told you about. Rule 3. In a sentence after the following words, that is generally used. All, any, anybody, anything, much, nothing, little, somebody, no one, none, the same followed by a noun followed by that, the only followed by a noun followed by that, etc. For example, all that glitters is not gold. There was none that didn't support the cause. Rule 4. After interrogative pronouns, who and what, that is used. For example, what is it that you can't solve? Who was there that you were talking with? Which. It is important to note that when used as a relative pronoun, which refers only to things, when used as an adjective or interrogative pronoun, which can refer to either persons or things. For example, the book which I purchased last week is very useful. Here are some rules that tell how we prefer to use that, who or which in our sentence. Rule 1. That is preferably used after superlative degrees instead of who or which. For example, he is the most eloquent speaker that I have ever heard. Rule 2. After two antecedents, one referring a person and the other referring an animal or a thing, use that instead of who or which. For example, the boy and his dog that entered the temple were caught by the people. Rule 3. After same or such, use as or that, not who or which. For example, this is the same fellow that came yesterday as well. What? Relative pronoun what is used without antecedents. When used as a relative pronoun, what has the meaning the thing or things that. For example, what you say is not true. Here are some rules. Rule 1. The antecedent of a relative pronoun should not be in the possessive case. For example, these are the chairman's instructions that must be followed would be incorrect. This sentence should have been written as the following. These are the instructions of the chairman that must be followed. Rule 2. The relative pronoun should be of the same number and person as its antecedent. It means the verb should agree with the number and person of the antecedent. For example, the girl who was late was fired. The girls who were late were fired. Distributive pronouns. Each, either and neither are classified as distributive pronouns. They are denoted as persons or things one at a time. These pronouns are always treated as singular and take singular verbs. For example, each of the students gets a prize. Either of the two will win the race. Every one of the students was happy. Each of the two students received a medal. Each can be used for two or more persons or things and is normally used for small numbers. Every is not normally used for very small numbers. Each can be used for more than two when the number is usually definite. Both take a singular verb. Who or whom. Who or whom is relative clause. A frequent source of trouble is sentences of this type. For example, the person who we thought was guilty proved to be innocent. The man who we feared we had injured proved to be unharmed. The temptation is always to use whom, presumably because it is felt that the word is the object of thought and fear, or whatever verb takes their place in other sentences, but it is not. In the first sentence, it is the subject of was guilty, hence who is correct, and in the second, the object of had injured, hence whom is required. If there is any doubt, a useful test is to substitute the personal pronoun he or him. If he would be used, the correct relative is who. If him, then it is whom. For example, we thought he was guilty, therefore who. We feared we had injured him, therefore whom. We thought him to be guilty, therefore whom. A similar difficulty may arise with questions. For example, who, not whom, do you think we saw? Because it is the object of saw. Whom is never an indirect object. Whom is not used as an indirect object. We do not say the boy whom I gave the book or ask whom did you give the book. It must be to whom, or the preposition may be placed at the end. The verb after who is the same number and person as its antecedent and takes its verb accordingly. For example, it is I who am to blame.